And then poor Arjuna says, well, you know, I'm a pretty crappy yogi. I don't think I'm going to make it. So what happens to the yogi who does not attain self-realization? Is he destroyed? Is he like the wind scattering the clouds? And Krishna says, you can't take anything with you, not your money, not your house, not your bank account, not your wardrobe, not your friends, not your family. But you do take your yoga with you, because that's part of the subtle body. So after we die, we go to whatever loka is appropriate. Loka means world or people, like a heavenly realm. That's maybe the best way in English. We work out what karmas that we have. Then at some propitious moment, we incarnate. And Krishna last week said, you will be born into a prosperous family of righteous people. And you pick up where you left off and quickly, united with your yoga, attain the goal. Or even better, you're born into a family of knowers of Brahman, meaning you have enlightened parents. It's possible. Then you may grow up with no veil at all. Very rare, but very wonderful. So I think we ended, was it with 47 or we're doing 47 this week?
We're doing 43 right now.
Doing 43, I'm sorry. So Deepa, can you help us out?
Sure.
Say something so they can make sure they all hear you.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, nice and loud.
Tatra tam buddhi samyogam labate parvadehikam yatate chatato bhuya samsiddho kurunandana. There he comes to be united with the knowledge acquired in his former body and strives more than before for perfection, O son of the Gurus.
So here Krishna is saying we are united with the yoga we did in a previous life. And because along with that we have what's called auspicious desire, subhej. That person strives, has the impulse, the passion. We also call it mumukshutva, the burning desire for liberation, and soon attains the goal. So we look at people like, say, Ramana Maharshi. People say, oh my gosh, 16 years old, has a school chum die, goes home, gets consumed with this idea, who am I? Lies down, pretends he's dead, is intuitively led to do subject-object discrimination, attains self-realization in about half an hour. That's his whole sadhana. Why can't that happen to you and me? Well, he was probably a bit slow in his prior life. Got really close, didn't make it. Dies. Then in his next life, he's reunited with his yoga. So it happens very quickly. So we can never judge. Will I attain self-realization this lifetime? Act as if you will. One of the things that can stand in the way, especially for Indians, Westerners don't seem to suffer from this as much. Oh, self-realization, it's this great thing. The great Mahatmas, the great saints. It could never happen to me, I'm a worm. So I won't try. And we don't put in the self-effort.
Jim, can I ask a question?
Don't mumble.
Oh, can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
I know you say Gita operates at 3 levels. This verse, at one level, they say you take your yoga with you in the next life. Could you explain the other levels?
This verse only speaks essentially to that second level.
Okay.
For the new people, the 3 levels that Gita teaches in, it's first of all a Dharma Shastra, meaning it teaches us what to do in terms of action, especially in those first verses 3, 4, and 5, where we learn karma yoga. And then it can teach at the level of the subtle body. So here we're talking about what happens to the subtle body, you see. And then whenever Krishna says, I am, he is talking about the self in you and me. So every verse cannot be seen from 3 levels.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
you have to know what level he's teaching from through context.
Okay.
So you answered the question. He's talking about the subtle body, leaving the physical body, and then reincarnating. So what level do you think this is?
The subtle body level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question. Very good question. Any other questions about this verse? Next verse.
Purvabhyasena tenaiva kriyate yavashopi saha jigyasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. By that very former practice, he is borne on in spite of himself. Even he who merely wishes to know yoga goes beyond the Shabda Brahman.
Yes. The Shabda Brahman means the sound of Brahman, meaning the words. Meaning the words. So there's a difference between what we call a pundit. A pundit is a scholar. Being a scholar is a very good thing. Pundit, probably the best way to translate that is professor. So there are people who study the scriptures from an academic standpoint, or they study ritual, and they in their homes will do puja, etc. So Vishwa, what's your last name?
Dave.
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 That's actually a contraction of something long.
Duved. To.
Do Veda.
Yeah.
Do Veda, which means 2 Vedas. So historically, her family had to memorize 2 Vedas and be able to explain it. That doesn't mean that they were all men in wisdom of knowledge. It just means that they were scholarly people whose job in the village was to be the local library. That's what they did. That was their job. They would be pundits. So many Brahmin families, that's what they did. But a jnani or a yogi is someone who goes beyond practice, beyond scholarship into practice, so that we have the direct experience that the self in me is the self in all. So here, Krishna is saying that you're reunited with your former knowledge and then impelled by the force of our past. Now, in truth, we're all impelled by the force of our past. Why do I do what I do? I do what I do because I did what I did. So today's actions are impelled by a desire. I want to do this and I don't want to do that. Why do I want to do what I want to do? Because of impressions, because of vasanas, we call it, left in the mind, as a result of previous actions. So if you've spent lifetimes studying scripture, meditating, doing your yoga. Thomas, when I use the word yoga here, I do not mean just asana. Yoga here means anything that we do to unite the mind, yoke it to the self. Is that clear? So I don't know if you still hear. Anyway.
Yeah, he said thumbs up.
Okay. So we're reunited with the yoga of the past. So for example, we have a new person, Thomas. Thomas, unmute yourself for a moment. How old are you?
22.
22. Why in God's name would a Westerner like you, out of the blue, take a yoga training course and all of a sudden have an interest in this arcane stuff? Where did that come from?
Depression.
I'll tell
when I
you
was
why.
younger, yeah.
I'll tell you why. It's yoga you've done in other lives. You couldn't have had an interest in Gita if you hadn't done this in other lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yeah.
Out of the blue, some white dude in Davis, in the middle of COVID, starts to study yoga. Weird. Not at all.
Not so weird in Davis, but
Not at all. But why were you in Davis and not Alabama?
yes.
See, it's all karma. Karma is just the force of the past. That's all it is. That's all it is. Okay, I'm done. So we're reunited with the yoga we've had in the past. Then we're impelled to practice even more intensely toward the goal. Many people, when they hear Gita, when they hear a good teacher unfold the meaning, you get the sense of, oh, this makes perfect sense. It's almost like we're remembering it rather than hearing something brand new that I don't understand that's wackadoodle. Many people, I certainly did, felt like I was remembering it, not learning it. All right, next verse.
Prayatnadyattamanastu yogi samshuddha kilbishah aneka janma samsiddha astato yati param gatim. But the yogi who strives with assiduity, purified from sins and perfected gradually through many births, he then attains the highest goal.
So this is a multi-lifetime process. Swamiji used to say it's an evolution, not a revolution. Now, Vedanta, yoga, is the most compassionate of all religions. Because in yoga, everybody is saved. No one is left out. So if you think you're a loser, you're a crappy yogi, you'll never get it, you're so full of despair, low self-esteem, stuff like that, don't worry about it. Just keep doing the yoga. And it takes some of us lifetimes to do this work. But we have lifetimes. We have lifetimes. And through that lifetime, the desire for liberation, the desire for freedom gets more and more intense. And our attachments, our identifications get thinner and thinner. And then at the right time, when we're ready, the Guru shows up. And they say, aha, now you're ready for the serious business. Come with me. Show us the awakened state. But that doesn't mean that people who have that great punya means merit, to find a teacher, doesn't mean they're better than other people. I like to say, which is more beautiful, the first rose of the summer or the last? Each blooms in its proper time. Now, you can't storm heaven. If you have a gross mind, and I don't mean a bad mind, a mind that's dense, that has a lot of craving, that has a lot of attachment, no blame, but do not do violence to your mind. That's like trying to rip the petals off of a rosebud. There's a saying in the Zen tradition, hasten slowly. Just be a yogi. Just do your practices. Do your practice. Avail yourself of these tools. Live a moderate, simple life. It'll all fall into place. But you'll get there. You can't fall off the path. No one's left out. Everyone gets there in time. Just like rivers flow to the sea. You know, if you're high up in a helicopter above a huge river like the Amazon or the Nile, you see it do all these really strange circuitous curves and back bends and things like that. But it's inevitably going to the sea. So each one of us is inevitably going home to God. Any thoughts on this?
Jim, where's the expressway, the tollway, the fast lane to get there? Why wait lifetimes?
Okay. Did you all hear Vishwa's question? There is an expressway. And the expressway is to finally give up the world. All the things that bug you, all the things that upset you, when are you going to finally give it up? You see the paradox?
Oh, yeah.
That's the price tag.
Yep.
Now, if you have issues with family, if you have issues with money, if you have issues of health or stuff like that, whatever your issues are, if you want self-realization, the price tag is complete renunciation. Doesn't mean you walk away from any of this stuff. It means you quit letting it bug you. How? Drop it. Drop it. And that's what you need to do. That's the fast track. If you're committed to, I'm done with this world, nobody, no situation is important enough for me to lose my serenity, I let it all go. You just tune up your mind. Level yourself and stay there. Any questions about that?
No.
I have a follow-up question, Jim.
Please speak up loudly so they can hear you.
So, I mean, with, I've been coming to these classes for about 2 years, and I see that, thinking about these ideas often enough lets those ideas intervene in your negative patterns in your mind. So if I encounter an unpleasant situation at work or in life, and then I tell myself, let it go, I will. And that's my cognitive response.
Yes.
But there's a subconscious stress response that happens subconsciously. It's the precursor to the cognitive response, where your hackles start going up and your gut starts clenching, and you generally have a predisposition before you even thought it, and it's in your system subconsciously.
Well, it's kind of subconscious. The fact that you're aware that your hackles are going up means it's not subconscious.
No, but I mean, that awareness happens after some activity happens.
Practice, you'll be more adept.
So you're saying that intervention might be possible.
It can be instantaneous and on the spot.
Hmm.
And the key is this, what I call the spiritual axiom. If I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the attachment, the control issue, the expectation, the identification. It is never out there. And that's probably the most difficult teaching to internalize. Because ego says, I'm a victim. They done it to me. It's the boss. It's my husband. It's my parents. It's my kids. It's the professor. It's the politics. That's not to say that I'm wrong and they're right. We're not saying that. The world and its people are oftentimes quite wrong from a worldly viewpoint. But that's not the issue. The issue is I got upset. Why did I get upset? So Deepa, when your hackles go up or your tummy clenches, your mind is telling you that the people, places, things, and conditions out there are real. So those of us who are in this heading towards the end of Viveka Judamani on Monday nights, or this section that we worked on with chapter 10 in Tripura Rahasya. It's seeing the whole world as Brahman. It's all God. It's all good. All is Maya. All is bliss. My favorite quote from Chandogya, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this is verily Brahman. Or you can look at it the way Shankara says it. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is real. This funny farm of a world, Mithya, it's an illusion. You have to do it over and over and over again. That's why we call it abhyas. What does abhyasa mean?
Practice.
Practice. Now, one of my favorite slogans, anything worth doing is worth doing badly. If it's really hard and I haven't done it before, I'm not going to be very good at it in the beginning. But many of us have the dosha, the defect of perfectionism. If I can't do it perfectly the first time, I'm not going to try a second. Any of you have that particular defect? It is an enemy of good yoga. You've got to be willing to be crappy. And you keep doing abhyasa, practice. Very good question. Now, what I want you to understand, Deepa, is the Cartesian split between body and mind is Western. In yoga, we do not have a split. It's not that the mind is watching the body. Mind is only a subtler form of body. Body is a grossified form of mind. So try not to make that distinction. It must be unconscious because my tummy's clenching. That's that, clenchy tummy. I'm having a reaction. And the thing that's so wonderful, the body never lies. The mind is capable of denial. You can fool yourself. Oh, everything is just fine. Everything is The body does not lie. So oh, my hackles are up, my tummy hurts. I'm having a feeling. Tell the truth. Body never lies. What am I feeling? I'm pissed beyond belief. Okay. What is it that I need to let go of? That's the yoga that you work. You work the knowledge. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Excellent question. Excellent question.
That gives me a lot of hope, Jim. Thank you.
Me too.
Now, when we study Vivekachudamani, there's one of my favorite sections, the qualifications of a fit student. But there's a couple verses beforehand, which kind of says these are the preparatory things. One of the things that Shankara says that the yogi needs to have is medha.
Memory.
Keen memory. The exoteric understanding is to be able to remember a verse, be able to quote a verse in Sanskrit. Or I give a term and you're able to say that's what it means, translation. That's the outer meaning of medha. The deeper meaning of medha, much subtler, to be able to apply the teaching at the appropriate moment of life. So if I say it's axiomatic that if I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the attachment, the expectation, the identification, and you can parrot that back to me, that's very good. That's the exoteric understanding. But if you go home and scream at your husband, you've missed it. Do you get what I'm saying?
Jim, in my house, we've rephrased your axiom between husband and wife, between Setu and I say
between Setu
and me, yes. If I'm the one, if I'm disturbed, you're the one with the problem. Husband's the one with the problem.
Well, you can joke,
I
but
know.
understand it. Understand it.
No.
Nobody out there is powerful enough to make me feel anything. No situation out there is powerful enough to upset me. If I'm disturbed, I'm the one with the klesha. That's what they use in the Hatha yoga tradition, or dosha, defect. Sufis call it nafs. We can call them hridaya granthi. That's one of my favorite expressions. What's hridaya granthi?
Knots of the heart. Knots of the heart.
Knots of the heart, yes. But that's your gauge. I like look at it this way. You're driving along and all of a sudden the check engine light comes on. That says, oh, there's something wrong with the motor of the car. That's your gauge. It indicates there's an issue. I'm driving through life and I get upset. That's my spiritual check engine light.
Wow.
What's it mean? Attachment, identification, expectation, control issue. Look under the hood. See where you're identified. See where you're at. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Tapasvibhyo dekho yogi jnanibhyopi matodhikaha karmibhyaschadiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. The yogi is thought to be superior to the ascetics and even superior to men of knowledge, mere scholars. He is also superior to men of action. Therefore, you strive to be a yogi, O Arjuna.
Yes. So in our practice, we start out with proper action. Karma yoga. Do this, don't do that. So for Thomas, if you're studying the Yoga Sutras, these are the yamas and niyamas. Better than just good behavior is tapas. Actually, that's one of the niyamas now that I think of it. What is tapas? Tapas means heat. When we endeavor to change a habitual behavior pattern or a habitual thinking pattern, the mind is resistant. The mind is ruled by the law of inertia. The law of inertia is a body in a vacuum at motion or at rest will stay in motion or at rest until energy is applied to change it. Got an asteroid moving through space, it's just going to keep on going until something hits it, changes its course. So, if you do nothing, if nothing changes, nothing changes. Oh, I wish there were a pill I could take. I wish some guru would just tap me on the head. But if nothing changes, nothing changes. I'm going to go to the psychologist and I'm going to find out why I'm so reactive in this situation. You come out of the psychologist's office and now you know why. Back in the old Est days, they used to say, understanding is the booby prize. It doesn't change it. How do we change it? Tapas. If I've got a habituated mode of thinking, I have to start the practice of changing it. If I have a bad habit, I begin to start to change it. And what will happen is the mind will put up resistance. It will heat up. Sorry, that's what happens. I don't want to. It's too hard. I'm just venting. No. So better than just trying to have good behavior is the tapaswan, the one who's endeavoring to correct bad habits. Physical bad habits, mental bad habits. But better than that. Was there a third one before we got to the yogis? I can't remember. Deepa? Karma and tapas, were those the two? Was there a third one?
Wait, I'm trying to pull up the verse. I'm sorry. The yogi is thought to be superior to the ascetics and even superior to men of knowledge.
Yes,
And
learning. That was the third one. I knew there was a third one.
Men of action.
Yeah. So, just reading the books won't do it. You can study scripture and go to discussion groups and lots of lectures. You can watch on YouTube. I'm not saying those are not of value if they inspire us to make changes. But the best of them all is the yogi. Best of them all is the yogi who seeks moksha, liberation, as their goal. And we've had a wonderful description of all that as we've made our way through the 6th chapter. Finally culminating in this radical reversal of the attentive faculty and in a mind made very, very still. In the space between your thoughts. Koham. Who am I? This is yoga. Next verse.
Yoginamapi sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktatamo mataha. And among all yogis, he who, full of faith, with his inner self merged in me, worships me, is, according to me, the most devout.
So this is a wonderful verse. He's beginning to give us inklings of a later chapter on Bhakti Yoga. So let's talk about worshiping. What you worship is God as you understand God. But many of us don't understand what it is that we truly worship. So what I like to say, to the word God, add another O. You're good. So you may do prayers in the morning, you may do puja to your Ishta Devata, but if all day long you're spending your time making money, thinking about money, how am I going to save money? How am I going to get more money? Well, that's where your good is. You think money is going to make you happy. So that's what you truly worship. Or if you're single and you spend all your time, oh, I'm so lonely. I want a boyfriend. I want a girlfriend. I want to get married. That's your good. That's your God. That's what you're worshiping. Or you're in the company and you think it's going to be a whole lot better if you put all your work and attention and energy into a raise and a promotion. All the rest of the people, they only work 40, 50 hours a week. I'm going to work 80 hours a week. Your good is your God. So we have to be very honest with ourselves. What is my God? So in the beginning, when we worship, we may start with God as a form of some sort. We have a mandir, a shrine in our homes, and we have a deity installed. We think, oh, that's the God that I'm going to propitiate. That's the God I'm going to worship. No blame with that. But if we go back to the 4th chapter, Krishna says, in whatever way people approach me, so am I to them. So whether it's Lord Shiva, or whether it's Lord Krishna, or Hanuman, or Jesus, or Allah, endless are the names of the infinite. And it's not that which you worship out there. In the end, where is God? It's your very self. So the highest of all worship. You were talking about teaching from 3 levels.
Mm-hmm.
This is from the highest.
Wow.
So here Krishna says they worship me. The exoteric understanding, okay, I worship Lord Krishna. But the deeper meaning is what we call Atmaramana, reveling in the self. When the mind is yoked to the self. That's the highest form of practice, the highest form of worship. When the yogi realizes that the self in me and Brahman, infinite consciousness, they are the same. When the yogi realizes where is happiness? Happiness is the mind freed from its compulsion to attach, to crave, to want to manipulate the phenomena. When it lets go, it comes home. And Swamiji would say, Hari Om, Hari Om. We live and we move and we have our being in thee, O God. Or as the psalmist says, O Lord, you are the center of my life. Or another psalm, taste and see the goodness of the Lord. Taste. Brahmananda rasa, the juice, the taste of the bliss of your own self. Is that 46 or 47?
It's 47, Jim.
That's the end of the thing, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little Upanishad. Will you chant it for us?
Sure.
Om
Om
Tat Sat.
Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagwad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjun Samvade Atma Samyam Yogo Nam Shashtodhyaya. Thus, in the Upanishads of the glorious Bhagavad Gita, in the science of the eternal, in the scripture of yoga, in the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, the sixth discourse ends entitled The Yoga of Meditation.
Yes, yes. Atma Samyoga, being joined to the self. Sometimes also called Abhyasa Yoga. Other editors will call it that. All right, that finishes the 6th chapter. How to meditate. It's very rich, very dense. Now, many commentators on Gita divide it into 3 sections of 6 chapters each, assigning to each one of the sections one of the words in the great Mahavakya, great utterance, Tat Tvam Asi. Tat means that, the infinite. Tvam means you. Asi means joined together. So the first 6 chapters are about Tvam, you. The next 6 chapters are about Tat. So the main topic under discussion is, what is the nature of the infinite? Now, as we start the 7th chapter, we have some technical terms that I want to go through that Vyasa, our poet, is going to use. So Gita, by and large, draws on the vocabulary of the Sankhya philosophy. That's an older philosophical system. In the Sankhya philosophy, it was dualistic. It was dualistic. And we had Purusha and we had Prakriti. Purusha literally means a person. But in the Sankhya philosophy, it meant spirit or soul. Prakriti meant matter, nature. So there was a split between spirit and matter. It's an idea that's in a lot of the Western philosophies as well. So Gita will use the language of the Sankhya philosophy, but what it will do with that is bridge that apparent duality. So we will talk about a lower prakriti. Well, it's actually a higher prakriti. Then two other words that we're going to get is jnanam. Here it means wisdom or understanding. And vijnanam. V is a prefix. It can mean a superlative beyond what the root word is. Sometimes it means the opposite, but here it means what's beyond just understanding. Sometimes it's translated as knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge and experience. So there's a lot that's implied with this, because this has to do with the methodology that we're using. Here in this satsang, what we're endeavoring to do is get you tuned up. So your minds, to a degree, drop away and you're drinking deeply of the bliss of Brahman. And then we tell you what you're experiencing while you're experiencing it, so that your knowledge, your understanding, your direct experience, and knowing what's going on come together at the same time. In many other scriptures, you're going to hear, hearing this, you are perfectly liberated. Have you heard that in other scriptures before?
Yeah.
Seems far too simplistic. But the word, shravana, listening, shravu, listen. It has this deep meaning when our understanding and our direct experience come together at the same time. I had a friend who was a disciple of Ram Dass, wonderful teacher. Was hanging out with Ram Dass, and they were doing drishtipat, sitting and looking into each other's eyes, and all the shakti was happening. And my friend was saying, "Oh my gosh," and I saw all these incarnations, and I saw all these deities, and his face was changing. And oh, it was so cool. It got really high. But it does seeing faces free us? I was talking on the phone with a student who had some pretty intense experiences recently. Phenomena, spiritual phenomena. That's fine. Seeing visions, having sensations in the body, buzzings in chakras and things like that. It happens. But if the mind is focused outward on the phenomena, because we don't have the jnanam portion, it doesn't free us. So that's part of the technology of jnana yoga as a system. So put that on the shelf. Let's start the 7th chapter. We've got about 10 minutes.
Shri Bhagwan Vacha Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjanmadashraya Asamshayam Samagram Yatha Gyasya Tat Shrunum. With the mind,
The Blessed Lord said, first of all.
The Blessed Lord said, with the mind intent on me, Partha, practicing yoga and taking refuge in me, How thou shalt, without doubt, know me fully, that do thou hear.
So now Krishna is going to give us more advanced instruction on how to continue on the path to realize. Tat. Learned about the Twam. Now we're going to talk about Tat. So what are we supposed to do? Through our various practices of purification, we spent 3 chapters on one of the most powerful, Karma Yoga. This helps reduce the pressure of our vasanas, of our attachments. We can also take up intense devotional practice. And now we're going to start practicing some more serious things. In our meditation, we're discriminating between the self and the not self. I am not the body. I am not the prana. I am not the feelings, the mind. I am not the intellect, the thoughts. I'm not even the false ego sense that I see rise and fall. And the mind has been made very, very quiet. Again, what I call this radical reversal of the attentive faculty. See if you can notice the knower. Who sees the thoughts and the space between the thoughts? This is what Krishna means when he says, with the mind intent on me. When Krishna says me, he means yourself. Again, for the newcomers, we have 4 great statements which encompass the teaching. These are called Mahavakyas. And each one is taken from one of the Upanishads, from one of the 4 Vedas. The first defines what ultimate reality is. It says, Prajnanam Brahma. Brahman, ultimate reality, is consciousness, it's pure awareness. Satchidananda, pure existence, pure consciousness, and bliss absolute. Where is it? Is it on top of a mountain? Is it in outer space? No. The second one, I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahma. So the student looks at the guru and says, I get it. Your self is Brahman, I'm a worm. No. Tat Tvam Asi. You are that. What do you mean? How could I be God? I can't even get my laundry done on time. How can I be God? So we go through this process of removing our attention from the outer to find out what's the substratum, what's the essence of who I am. And when I come to that realization, I am that witnessing consciousness. The Upanishads thunder, that self in you and the substratum of the whole creation, they are the same thing. I am Atma. So the last Mahavakya does not say, oh, I'm a realized person. Touch my feet. I'm different and special. When this sense of being an individual person is gone, it explodes, it's gone away. And the great exclamation at the moment of realization is, Aham Brahmasmi. Oh, there's nobody there. I am Brahman. I am pure consciousness. I'm not the body. I'm not the mind. I'm not my stupid thoughts. So this is where Krishna is pointing us in this chapter, toward that direct experience. All right, next verse.
Jnanam teham savijnana midam vakshamya sheshastah yajagyatva neha puyo anyajgyatavyamavishyate. I shall declare to thee in full knowledge. I shall declare to thee in full this knowledge combined with realization, which being known, nothing more here remains to be known.
So here, Krishna is now using the technical terms that we talked about in the introduction to this chapter. Jnanam, vijnanam cha. I think Swamiji, did he say knowledge combined with realization?
Yes.
Yes. So that's how he has defined it. So it's when our understanding and our direct experience come together. That's when the aha happens in the mind. I love the way Yoga Vasishta frames it. Both bondage and liberation occur to the mind. The self is ever free. What is my bondage? Nothing more than the deeply rooted conviction. It's almost like a hypnotic trance that I'm bound, meaning I think I'm my body. I think I'm my body, maybe plus my personality. What is moksha? What is liberation? Nothing more than the deeply rooted conviction that I'm free, meaning direct experience. I know Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Both of those states occur to the mind, technically to the Vijnana Maya Kosha, the intellectual sheath. And neither affects the self. Now we're going to be talking about two kinds of knowledge here. The real knowledge, the perfect knowledge, is the self-evidence of I. How do you know you are you? You do not see, hear, taste, touch, or smell yourself. You don't emote yourself. You don't think yourself. Well, maybe I don't exist. Who thinks they don't exist? I do. You cannot deny I. But how do you know you are you? and you are self-evident. You are the knower. You are your own means of knowledge. You are that which is known. It's different than anything else in the universe. Pure subjectivity, pure I. And the great cosmic joke is everybody already has that. The most miserable of creatures knows that she is. Knows that she's quite aware of her misery. She does not lack the experience of the self. The problem is the mind. So this process that we're going through changes the mind. The root of the problem is avidya, ignorance, ajnanam. I do not know. What is the antidote for ignorance? Knowledge. So we engage in the process called Atma Vichara, self-investigation or self-inquiry. The root is vich, which means to winnow, to separate the wheat from the chaff. So we're going to discriminate between the self and the not self, between the seer and the seen, between the subject and all the objects. The Cliff Notes form of it. It has a beginning and an end. If it occurs in time and space, if it has qualities or characteristics, if it's confined to the waking dream or deep sleep state, and most importantly, if it can be objectively apprehended. And in it, drop it. What is it? That which pervades all periods of time. Whatever you knew in the past, who knew it? I did. Who knows the present? Me. Whatever happens tomorrow, who's going to know it? Me. It knows all worlds, gross and subtle. Phenomena in the objective world, who knows it? I do. Whatever I'm feeling, who knows it? I do. Whatever thoughts I'm having, who knows them? I do. That's who we want to investigate and find out. Koham. Who am I? We want to call out from all these assumed notions of self by pure, direct experience of I. But then we got to deal with this world, this not self. And then we say at this point, we lied. There is no not self. What we've been calling not self is called Sa Guna Brahman. Brahman, ultimate reality with qualities. Or we'll have in this chapter the lower prakriti, the lower nature. So that's the process we're going to start engaging in. Okay, we'll quit here. It's 8 o'clock. Any questions or anything before we sign off? Thomas, are you still with us?
Yeah. Oh,
How'd you do with this? Was it understandable to you?
yeah, it was. I
Great.
enjoyed listening.
Well, this is how we do it. I hope you come back. Anybody else have questions or comments? Again, we hope to see more of you in person next week. If you're fully vaccinated, come on in. The water's fine. Love to have you. There's an energy that gets created when we have real life people in the room. The Zoom is good, but the Shakti doesn't necessarily translate. All right, we'll end here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Tat Sat. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.